Bo, namaste, and aloha. Welcome again to Krishna book reading number 21. My name is Janapati Das, and if you are joining me for the first time, we are continuing with our reading of the Krishna book, which is a summary synopsis of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam as translated by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. With all the philosophy of the 9 chapters, with the stories of the 10th canto. 9 cantos and 10th canto. And what we're going to do first here, of course, as usual, is to hear and chant the names of Krishna, which cleanses the heart of all the dust. What is that dust? That dust is that enviousness, that jealousy, that enviousness, that hatred, whatever it might be, covering of our true nature as spiritual entities, a covering from keeping us from our loving relationship with the Supreme. And this form of mantra meditation, hearing and chanting of Krishna's names, is the prime benediction for this day and age to achieve self-realization. So what we're going to do is we're going to get right into it. Let me offer my respects to all of you and offer my respects to my spiritual teacher. welcome back again. If this is once again your first time, feel free to go back in my YouTube channel and listen from Krishna book reading number 1 through, so you can hear the whole story. If you haven't liked or subscribed to my channel, please do. And please feel free to share these videos or comment in the comment sections. Or if you have any questions, feel free to ask any questions. So we are continuing with chapter 8. We had just read Salvation of Trinavarta, as we remember, the demon who was a Rakshasa, what they call Rakshasa. He could shift shapes, change shapes, or have mystic powers and be able to be very powerful. In this case, Trinavarta assumed a form of a whirlwind and tried to carry Krishna away, but Krishna is the most heavy of anyone because he's the Supreme Lord. So after a while, even the great demon Trinavarta could not carry Krishna, and Krishna made him basically die in the middle of the sky and fall down. And of course, everyone came and were like, whoa, how did that happen? How did they, they're just kind of trying to figure out why is all these things happening to Krishna, but Krishna escapes. He must be being protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the wonder of the internal potency of the Supreme Lord, using his yoga maya, we've discussed this before, in a way that his devotees can have a loving relationship, an intimate relationship of parental or friendship or conjugal love, and not feel like, oh wow, this is God, I must worship him with awe and reverence. So the vision of the universal form will continue. After this incident, Vasudeva asked his family priest Gargamuni to visit the place of Nanda Maharaj in order to astrologically calculate the future life of Krishna. Gargamuni was a great saintly sage who underwent many austerities and penances and was appointed priest of the Yadu dynasty. When Gargamuni arrived at the home of Nanda Maharaj was very pleased to see him and immediately stood up with folded hands and offered his respectful obeisances. He received Gargamuni with the feeling of one who is worshiping God or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He offered him a nice sitting place, and when he sat down, Nanda Maharaj offered him a warm reception. Addressing him very politely, he said, "My dear Brahmana, your appearance in a householder's place is only to enlighten. We are always engaged in household duties and are forgetting our real duty of self-realization. Your coming to our house is to give us some enlightenment about spiritual life. You have no other purpose to visit householders." So in the system, in the Vedic system, it used to be that it was called the Varnashram system. So you had the Varna. The Varna was the system of different social orders, the Brahmanas being at the top of the priestly caste, the Kshatriyas or administrators or warriors or second, then the Vaishyas were the merchants or agricultural farmers and whatnot, and Shudras were the laborers. So that this time there were no untouchables. That was something that was artificially added later on in Kali Yuga. So there is no untouchable system in the original Vedic system. But all these social orders would work together, and the ashram system, of course, was basically, ashram is like a place to worship, but it is also considered a stage of life. So you had the brahmanas, or student life, which was the first stage, was considered an ashram stage also, because it was a time where you are a student, you are celibate, you engage in spiritual activity, learning about scriptures and learning under a spiritual master. And then there was the householder life, which was the Grihastha system, which ashram, which was so then we had after the Grihastha system, you had the Vanaprastha system, which was a retired time, and then there was the sannyasi, which was a renounced stage of life. So in this case, The brahmanas usually would come and enlighten householders, remind householders not to get entangled up into their system of living life in a married life and accumulating wealth, which is what you do as a householder, but to remind them to keep their focus on spiritual life. So that's what Nanda Maharaj is mentioning here to Gargamuni. Actually, a saintly person or a brahmana has no business visiting householders who are always busy in the matter of dollars and cents. If it is asked, why don't the householders go to a saintly person or a brahmana for enlightenment, the answer is that the householders are very poor-hearted. Generally, householders think that their engagement in family affairs is their prime duty and that self-realization or enlightenment in spiritual knowledge is secondary. Out of compassion only, saintly persons and brahmanas go to householders' homes. So the saintly people were at this time compassionately going to remind householders of their, like I said, to remind their purpose of their life, because in this stage of the ashram, you would become a householder, you get married, you have sex life by having children, you accumulate wealth, you make money, and so there's a lot of like snares in this system. You can get caught up in it and just be like, oh, this is what my whole life is about, and you forget the focus that you can be in the householder life, but yet dovetail everything that you do in your householder life, the raising of your children, the begetting Krishna conscious children and raising them accordingly, helping support your partner to come closer to Krishna and help serve their spiritual master, and so many other things, making money, using the money to make foods for Krishna. So these are things that help remind you, but because it is a situation where you also have a lot of sense gratification, it's easy to get sidetracked. And so this is why these saintly people would come to instruct them in spiritual life and remind them that your householder life is only temporary. You might be making money for a while, but your kids will grow up, you'll get older, you won't be able to work anymore, and you'll have to move into this next stage of life, which is retired life. And retired life is also an ashram, considered an ashram. You spend, your kids have grown up, so the kids go off and they do their thing and make money or whatever, get married, have their own children, and they enter their householder life, but they come and they support the parents in their endeavor to focus more on serving their spiritual master and focusing on the spiritual life. Nanda Maharaj addressed Gargamuni as one of the great authorities in astrological science. The foretellings of astrological science occur, such as the occurrence of solar and lunar eclipses, are wonderful calculations. And by this particular science, a person can understand the future very clearly. Gargamuni was proficient in this knowledge, but by this knowledge, one can understand what his previous activities were, and by the result of such activities, one may enjoy or suffer in this life. So astrology, Vedic astrology, was a real science. It is a real science. There is a way to calculate the movement of the stars, and there were people that were trained not just by learning it from some channel or something, but they were handed the information down from teacher to student. The kind of astrology that you find in newspapers or on sites nowadays is sort of a concocted, made-up astrology. It has no real basis in reality at all. But the original Vedic astrology was a real science. Nanda Maharaj also addressed Gargamuni as the best of the brahmanas. A brahmana is one who is expert in the knowledge of the Supreme. Without knowledge of the Supreme Absolute, one cannot be recognized as a brahmana. The exact word used in this connection is Brahma Vidyam, which means those who know the Supreme very well. An expert brahmana is able to give reformatory facilities to the subcastes, namely the Kshatriyas and Vaishyas. The Shudras observe no reformatory performances. The brahmana is considered to be the spiritual master or priest for the Kshatriya and Vaishya. So there was a perfect system that was set up in the sense that the Brahmana would instruct spiritual knowledge to the Kshatriya. The Kshatriya had a duty to not only protect their society and take care of the kingdom, but also to make sure that this Vedic knowledge that he was being taught was being distributed equally to everyone below him, the Vaishyas and the Shudras. Nanda Maharaj happened to be a Vaishya, and he accepted Gargamuni as a first-class Brahmana. He therefore offered his two foster sons, namely Krishna and Balaram, to him to purify. He agreed that not only these boys, but all human beings just after birth should accept a qualified Brahmana as spiritual master. Upon this request, Gargamuni replied, Vasudeva sent me to see the reformatory performances of the boys, especially Krishna's. I am their family priest, and incidentally it appears to me that Krishna is the son of Devaki. By his astrology calculation, Gargamuni could understand that Krishna was the son of Devaki, but that he was being kept under the care of Nanda Maharaj, which Nanda did not know. Indirectly, he said that Krishna, as well as Balaram, were both sons of Vasudeva. Balaram was known as the son of Vasudeva because his mother Rohini was present there. But Nanda Maharaj did not know about Krishna. Gargamuni indirectly disclosed the fact that Krishna was the son of Devaki. Gargamuni also warned Nanda Maharaj that if he would perform the reformatory ceremony, then Kamsa, who was naturally very sinful, would understand that Krishna was the son of Devaki and Vasudeva. According to astrological calculation, Devaki could not have a female child, although everyone thought that the eighth child of Devaki was female. In this way, Gargamuni intimated to Nanda Maharaj that the female child was born of Yashoda and that Krishna was born of Devaki, and they were exchanged. The female child, or Durga, also informed Kamsa that the child who would kill him was already born somewhere else. Gargamuni stated, if I give your child a name and if he fulfills the prophecy of the female child to Kamsa, then it will be that the sinful demon will come and kill this child also after the name-giving ceremony. But I do not want to become responsible for all these future calamities. On hearing the words of Gargamuni, Nanda Maharaj said, if there is such a danger, then it would be better not to plan any gorgeous name-giving ceremony. It would be better for you to simply chant the Vedic hymns and perform the purificatory process. We belong to the twice-born caste, and I am taking this opportunity of your presence. So please perform the name-giving ceremony without external pomp. Nanda Maharaj wanted to keep the name-giving ceremony a secret, and yet take advantage of Gargamuni's performing the ceremony. When Gargamuni was so eagerly requested by Nanda Maharaj, he performed the name-giving ceremony as secretly as possible in the cowshed of Nanda Maharaj. He informed Nanda Maharaj that Balaram, the son of Rohini, would be very pleasing to his family members and relatives, and therefore he would be called Rama. In the future, he would be extraordinarily strong, and therefore he would be called Balaram. Gargamuni said further, because your family and the family of the Yadus are so intimately connected and attracted, therefore his name will also be Shankarshan. This means that Gargamuni awarded 3 names to the son of Rohini, namely Balaram, Shankarshan, and Baladev. But he carefully did not disclose the fact that Balaram also appeared in the womb of Devaki and was subsequently transferred to the womb of Rohini. Krishna and Balaram are real brothers, being the original sons of Devaki. Gargamuni then informed Nanda Maharaj, as far as the other boy is concerned, this child has taken different bodily complexions in different yugas, millennia. First of all, he assumed the color white, then he assumed the color red, then the color yellow, and now he has assumed the color black. Besides that, he was formerly the son of Vasudeva, therefore his son should be Vasudeva as well as Krishna. Some people will call him Krishna, and some will call him Vasudeva. But one thing you must know, this son has had many, many other names and activities due to his different pastimes. Gargamuni gave Nanda Maharaj a further hint that his son will also be called Giridhari because of his uncommon pastimes of lifting Govardhan Hill. Since he could understand everything past and future, he said, I know everything about his activities and name, but others do not know. This child will be very pleasing to all the cowherd men and cows. Being very popular in Vrindavan, he will be the cause of all good fortune for you. Because of his presence, you will overcome all kinds of material calamities, despite opposing elements. Gargamuni continued to say, my dear king of Raja, in his previous births, this child many times protected righteous persons from the hands of rogues and thieves whenever there was political disruption. Your child is so powerful that anyone who will become a devotee of your boy will never be troubled by enemies. Just as demigods are always protected by Lord Vishnu, so the devotees of your child will always be protected by Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This child will grow in power, beauty, opulence, and everything on the level of Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, I would advise you to protect him very carefully so that he may grow without disturbance. Gargamuni further informed Nanda Maharaj that because he was a great devotee of Narayan, Lord Narayan gave a son who was equal to him. At the same time, he indicated, your son will be disturbed by so many demons, so be careful and protect him. In this way, Gargamuni convinced Nanda Maharaj that Narayan himself had become his son. After giving this information, Gargamuni returned to his home. Nanda Maharaj began to think of himself as the most fortunate person, and he was very satisfied to be benedicted in this way. A short time after this incident, both Balaram and Krishna began to crawl on their hands and knees. When they were crawling like that, they pleased their mothers. The bells tied to their waist and ankles sounded fascinating, and they would move around very pleasingly. Sometimes, just like ordinary children, they would be frightened by others and would immediately hurry to their mothers for protection. Sometimes they would fall into the clay and mud of Vrindavan and would approach their mothers smeared with clay and saffron. They were actually smeared with saffron and sandalwood pulp by their mothers, but due to the crawling over muddy clay, they would simultaneously smear their bodies with clay. As soon as they would come crawling to their mothers, Yashoda and Rohini would take them on their laps and, covering the lower portions of their saris, allow them to suck their breasts. When babies were sucking their breasts, the mothers would see small teeth coming in. Thus their joy would be intensified to see their children grow. Sometimes the naughty babies would crawl up the cowshed, catch the tail of a calf, and stand up. The calves, being disturbed, would immediately begin running here and there, and the children would be dragged over clay and cow dung. To see this fun, Yashoda and Rohini would call all their neighboring friends and gopis. Upon seeing these childhood pastimes of Lord Krishna, the gopis would be merged in transcendental bliss. In their enjoyment, they would laugh very loudly. Both Krishna and Balaram were so restless that the mother Yashoda and Rohini would try to protect them from cows, bulls, monkeys, water, fire, and birds while they were executing their household duties. Always being anxious to protect the children and to execute their duties, they were not very tranquil. In a very short time, Krishna and Balaram began to stand up and slightly move on their legs. When Krishna and Balaram began to walk, other friends of the same age joined them, and together they began to give the highest transcendental pleasure to the gopis, specifically to Yashoda and Rohini. So in the similar way that all the residents of Vrindavan were immersed in this transcendental bliss of thinking about their Krishna and thinking about their worrying about them and wondering if they're going to be okay. Even this, just by this simple hearing and of these stories, one can come to a point of becoming more and more attracted to hearing about Krishna. Even though you're hearing the same story over and over again, it becomes more and more sweet and always fresh. Let's see what time we have. Okay. All the gopi friends of Yashoda and Rohini enjoyed the naughty, childish activities of Krishna and Balaram in Vrindavan. In order to enjoy further transcendental bliss, they all assembled and went to Mother Yashoda to lodge complaint against the restless boys. When Krishna was sitting before Mother Yashoda, all the elderly gopis began to lodge complaints against them so Krishna could hear. They said, "Dear Yashoda, why don't you restrict your naughty Krishna? He comes to our houses along with Balaram every morning and evening, and before the milking of the cows, they let loose the calves, and the calves drink all the milk of the cows. So when we go to milk the cows, we find no milk, and we have to return with empty pots. If we warn Krishna and Balaram about doing this, they simply smile charmingly. We cannot do anything. Also, your Krishna and Balaram find great pleasure in stealing our stock of yogurt and butter from wherever we keep it. When Krishna and Balaram are caught stealing the yogurt and butter, they say, "Why do you charge us with stealing? Do you think that butter and yogurt are in scarcity in our house?" Sometimes they steal butter and yogurt and milk and distribute them to the monkeys. When the monkeys are well fed and do not take any more, then your boys chide, "This milk and butter and yogurt are useless. Even the monkeys won't take it." And they break the pots and throw them hither and thither. If we keep our stock of yogurt, milk, butter, and milk in a solitary dark place, your Krishna and Balaram find it in the darkness by their glaring effulgence of the ornaments and jewels on their bodies. If by chance they cannot find the hidden butter and yogurt, they go to our little babies and pinch their bodies so that they cry, and then they go away. If we keep our stock of butter and yogurt high on the ceiling, hanging on a swing, although it is beyond their reach, they arrange to reach it by piling all kinds of wooden crates over the grinding machine. And if they cannot reach, they make a hole in the pot. We think that therefore that you better take all the jeweled ornaments from the bodies of your children. On hearing this, Mother Yashoda would say, "All right, I will take all the jewels from Krishna so that he cannot see the butter hidden in the darkness." Then the gopis would say, "No, don't do this. What good will you do by taking away the jewels? We do not know what kind of boys these are, even without ornaments. They spread some kind of effulgence so that even in darkness they can see everything." Then Mother Yashoda would inform them, "All right, keep your butter and yogurt carefully so that they may not reach it." In reply to this, the gopi says, "Yes, actually we do so, but because we are sometimes engaged in our household duties, these naughty boys enter our house somehow or other and spoil everything. Sometimes, being unable to steal our butter and yogurt out of anger, they pass urine on the clean floor and sometimes spit on it. Just see your boy now. He is hearing this complaint. All day they simply make arrangements to steal our butter and yogurt, and now they are sitting just like very silent good boys. Just see his face." When Mother Yashoda thought to chastise her boy after hearing all the complaints, she saw his pitiable face, and smiling, she did not chastise him. So, you can't help but laugh at these things. If this was like a regular boy or like somebody's child, you think, "Oh my God, what a horrible brat." But when you hear Krishna breaking stuff and passing urine, you just laugh and think, how sweet that Krishna does this. That's how you feel about it. It's always such a wonderful thing. Another day, let's see what time it is. Okay. You know what? I think we will continue. Yeah. We're going to get to the part about seeing the universal form. But I'll save it for next time. Sorry, but it's so wonderful. You want to keep going, but we are running out of time for this video. So we're going to hear and chant some more. And thank you very much. Okay. Hannibal, thank you for coming in and joining me today. And we'll see you next time.